And we are live here at our respective hometowns of Houston and New Orleans. This is Kenneth the K-Rock Cline here, along with Mark T. Robinson. Of course, we're quarantined just like the rest of everybody is, as we are still dealing with the effects of coronavirus and much more. So we got lots to talk to. But first of all, Mark, what's been going on down in New Orleans? Any activities so far?
Well, the only activity that has really been going on around here is it's ironic. Everybody's been told to stay inside, but a lot of people have used this opportunity to be one with nature. And I see a lot of people around the neighborhood riding bikes, going for walks. They don't want to stay inside just all week or so. And funny thing is, I went to Walmart the other day to buy a bike, and they were all sold out. So everybody is taking this opportunity to enjoy the sunshine on their own terms, I guess.
The more this goes on, or the more they're doing it, the more this goes on, and we're going to have some problems here. But, I mean, obviously, of course, you don't want to be inside too long. And, usually when I go out for walking or so, or I usually just go to places in my car, and, at night I usually go out for walking. So we got that taken care of. But in the meantime, something else that we need to take care of right now has been the ETBU tournament team, the ETBU's greatest team of the past 5 years tournament. So it's definitely been something that's been a lot pleasing to a lot of fans. There's been a lot of engagement. There's been a lot of trash talking. There's been a lot of people, doing some great campaigning as well. And we're down to 4 teams left in the tournament. And tell you what, this Final Four group of ETBU softball, men's soccer, hockey, and football, they might actually have not been, might be the strangest Final Four, although we might have expected softball and football, but hockey and men's soccer, they definitely made their way to getting to where they are right now.
Looking at these 4 teams that we have, we got some heavyweights. And as we look at first, the right side, actually, I was going to start with the left side, but I'm going to look at the right side first a little bit, because as far as fandom and popularity, hockey and football definitely kind of have that going for them there on the right side of our bracket. But then on the left side, you have that ETBU 2016 softball squad that has a lot of support as well. But then the dark horse of this whole thing, Kenny, is that 2018 men's soccer team. They are still alive and kicking. The question is this going to be the last that we see of them in this tournament? Could everything come to a screeching halt for them? But we'll see going forward. And I would also like to point out that in our Elite 8 predictions, great teams, obviously, but we each went 3-1, so 75% there on our predictions in the last round. Let's see how we fare coming up here after the Final Four. I think this is going to be a good one. I can't wait.
Yeah, you were wrong with the women's basketball prediction.
Yeah.
Hockey. Me wearing a baseball jersey, but for no particular reason whatsoever, I predicted baseball to beat softball. But I guess with the baseball-softball situation, just came down to the last inning, bases loaded, 3-2 count, softball down by a run, and all of a sudden, Lacey Lindsay hits a walk-off granny to win the game. So, a heartbreaking, tough break for baseball, because I really thought they would have made things interesting. They got a great following down there. But, hey, I guess if you have a great following, even if it's not widely recognized, then that should be a huge advantage to you. So now let's talk about each of the matchups. First up, we got the 2016 softball team against the 2018 men's soccer team. Softball, of course, they won the conference championship 2016 under some pretty difficult circumstances, especially for the campus that entire weekend. But, that was a team that had some great offense. They had like Kelly Jo McClendon. They had Rocky Tello on the pitching staff, Jamie Perez, Lacey Lindsay, Lindsay Lewis on the offensive side, even Caitlin Hollingshead as well. They definitely were a great team to watch, and especially to call. Made it to the NCAA regionals. But then you had the men's soccer team, scrappy team, actually made it to the conference tournament for the first time in like a decade or so. And then they won their first round game, took UT Dallas to double overtime in the semifinals before they came up short. So we're definitely looking at a matchup that has potential to maybe make it a close matchup, especially with the way that things are rolling with men's soccer right now. They're, in March Madness, there's always a Cinderella team, but I think men's soccer is definitely a Cinderella team this time around.
Yeah, I think so too. And looking at these two matchups between that 2016 softball squad and this men's soccer team is the thing that they both have in common is they both took down big-time ASC ranked rivals in their most successful season, or one of their most successful seasons in program history. First, I want to look at ETBU softball. They took down UT Tyler, and I know that's good for you, Kenny. Anytime any of our ETBU squads can take down the Patriots in anything, whether it's, checkers, bowling, what have you, softball, we take them down. You're a happy man. But they took down the Patriots in the ASC tournament to win the conference championship. And then you look at this men's soccer team. They beat a number 25 ranked UT Dallas squad on their way to the ASC tournament before ultimately falling to them in a double overtime game where they lost by a goal. It's 1-0. But looking at these two teams, they are certainly capable of rising to the occasion when you look at that 2018 squad versus that 2016 squad. So I think this matchup is going to come down to who can rise to the occasion and come up with the big plays in the final moments when the game's at its peak to come away with the win. So I think this is a great matchup. And like you said, this men's soccer team, they're serving as kind of our Cinderella story, so to speak. But looking at these two matchups, Kenny, I got to say, as much as, we like to go for the underdogs in this situation and everything like that, I just feel like that 2016 softball team, they've got a lot of alumni backing them. They've got the championship as well, something that the soccer team kind of came short of getting. And I think because of that, and because they have so many former players backing them up, I see ETBU softball advancing to our finals, to the championship round. What say you, Mr. Cline?
Well, I think it'll be a very close matchup, and I think that men's soccer will definitely give ETBU softball a bit of a scare. I mean, obviously, you're seeing them campaigning as hard as they possibly can. They're definitely building on some momentum here as well. However, I feel like ETBU's softball team from 2016, they have to be pretty upset that ETBU's men's soccer team got by the 2019 softball team. And I think they're definitely looking for some revenge. So knowing Coach Shirley, knowing the team, and especially the alumni, I think she and the other alumni members or the fan base will definitely have something to say about that. So I think it'll be a great matchup. I think it's definitely going to be an intriguing entree to the main event later, of course. But for the time being, though, I'm going to say softball gets by ETBU men's soccer team. Not that I'm not disliking men's soccer. I like men's soccer, but you just gotta go with your gut feeling, to say the least. And it's an opportunity for men's soccer to prove them wrong. But for now, softball gets the W in my book for sure.
Absolutely. And like you said, this is a chance. This is what March Madness, or pseudo March Madness tournament play is all about. A chance to prove the naysayers wrong, Kenny. And we've laid out the challenge. We're both picking against them. Let's see if they can rally enough support in this tournament to find themselves in the championship game. That's the exciting part about this whole thing.
Absolutely. And can't wait to see which one of those two teams come out and go to the the winning side. So anyways, time now to take a look at our other side of the bracket. And this is probably the one that's going to be a lot, probably that should be at least a main event, to say the least. You know how I said that the first matchup would be the entree. This is probably going to be the main event of the two, because you have ETBU football, who has their 2015 team made won the conference championship, albeit a tie for three-way, to say the least. But they had to beat Hardin Simmons to force themselves to have a share of the conference championship. They had a great team: Josh Warbington, Tyler Bates, Kendall Roberson, and then defensively, David James, C.J. Johnson, and a couple of those guys. But then you have probably the team that has been building up some popularity for the past 4 years, and that's the ETBU hockey team. They haven't had a losing season yet. And this past season, even though they didn't win the conference, they made it to the national tournament, and they actually won a game against a team they had already beaten before, and they actually made a second round. So interesting plot lines here for both teams. On one hand, you have the mega sport around ETBU, going up against a club sport that is definitely in terms of popularity. Now, of course, one thing that football does have, being in the East Texas region, where, in Texas, as we say, nothing is bigger than high school football, to say the least. You're seeing that around the entire state, but specifically in the East Texas region. But you then have a hockey team that has kind of played the Pied Piper, to say the least, and getting fans to come down to Shreveport, Louisiana, and, watching their games. And they've definitely made some noise the past 4 years. And they, of course, are playing Division I competition, to say the least. So, this is probably going to be a matchup that could come down to the last possession, or maybe overtime. I don't know, Mark. I'm kind of up in arms about it, and I might have to get your thoughts on what you have to say about it.
Well, here's one thing that I have to say about this is definitely a slugfest of two champions here, so to speak, even though, kind of looking at this, like you said, football is the more popular sport here in the States, especially here in the South. Football is the go-to sport. But what this hockey team has done, has come down here, has kind of embraced the role of being kind of, the new sport on the block, kind of the new kid in town. But they have gained popularity with the ETBU community, especially when, I talk to the current athletes from different programs. I talk to the fans. I talk to the student body about this hockey team, and they all love it. And the general consensus is they love hockey, and it's just interesting just because of the fact that you kind of look at it, hockey is a northern thing. When you really think about it, there's not a whole lot of teams down south that are going to have hockey teams, either on the West Coast either, now that I really think about it. But it's more of an up north thing. It's kind of an international thing, but it's taken the ETBU community by storm. And as they continue to build, that fan support, if they continue to build popularity, I think that's going to make this matchup that much more interesting. Now, this is I'm telling you, this is going to be, like you said, the main event leading to the championship game. This is going to be a slugfest. It's going to go blow for blow. And just like how both sports are physically based, I think this is going to come down to the final seconds, a buzzer beater, the last couple of possessions of the big game. I tell you what, I can't wait to see how this all pans out. And the fun part about this thing is that both these teams, if you look at it, kind of had a little bit of formalities as to their postseason success. Like, for example, I'm looking at this ETBU hockey team. They needed a couple of teams in their region to kind of lose out, a couple teams to beat, certain teams in the conference to advance to the next round. And when you look at ETBU football, that 2015 team, yes, they won the championship, but they had to share it with Hardin Simmons and UMHB. So when you look at these two teams, they got something to prove here. So maybe, just maybe, they come into this matchup with a chip on their shoulder saying, we got something to prove. This is our time to rise to the occasion and advance to the championship. Let's see how it rolls out.
Yeah, and I think the X factor of that matchup would have to be a one-on-one confrontation with CJ Johnson of the football team, I believe, and Skylar Spiller of the hockey team.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely want to see that happening. Dr. Blackburn, you get that to happen, please.
Yes. I would pay big money to see that if I was a casual fan, I tell you that.
Yeah, so, I don't know. You never really gave me much of your prediction for the football hockey matchup as well. So, is there do you have any predictions on that?
Yeah, I do. I was just getting to that point just in a moment here, but like you said, man, this is going to go back and forth, but as tight as it is and as close as it is as far as popularity with these two teams, I'm going to have to give the edge to the 2015 ETBU football team. We're going to see them in the finals. And I'm telling you, mark my words, Kenny, this is Mr. Guarantee talking now. I think they're going to be in the finals, ETBU 2015 football, I'm telling you.
Mr. Guarantee never goes 75%.
Those are good percentages, though. I'll take it.
Well, going to have to make things a little bit interesting here because I'm trying to decide. Obviously, football, of course, it's fast. Like, they got more room to work on the offensive side, whereas hockey is kind of in an enclosed environment, but they can be fast. I'm trying to figure out who hits harder, a football team or Skylar Spiller checking someone more so in the Czech Republic. But, it's definitely been a very interesting, challenge to say the least. I think it is going to go down to the wire. But I am going to go on the limb, and I'm going to say it'll be an upset. ETBU hockey barely hanging on to knock off the football team. I think it's going to be Tyler Fitzgerald making the save, preventing Kendall Roberson from piling in to the end zone. Just as the clock sounds, to say the least. But, hey, again, I think this one would be the closest matchup we have possible here. So I think my championship matchup is going to be ETBU softball and ETBU hockey.
Oh, yeah. Interesting, Kenny. You're going with the underdog, so to speak. The underdog that's gaining a lot of support in the rankings, but we will see. But I have 2016 softball against 2015 ETBU football in the finals, and I can't wait to see how this all unfolds. We'll be watching. You'll be watching. We got to get the fans to go out there and vote, though. That's the biggest thing.
If it ends up being 2015 football and 2016 softball, they both have complexes out here. I would love for just to see those two sides just kind of verbal exchange at each other, arguing who's better at this and that. Maybe throw some stuff here and there, try to cause a little bit of a ruckus, to say the least. But I mean, there's been a lot of trash talking going on, but not bad, but in a good way. But it's just been so exciting. It's just been so remarkable. But I tell you what, Mark, I mean, this is definitely going to be an interesting to see how it all plays out. And I feel like, depending on who wins, we might be in for some special treats in between now and the championship, depending on it. We're treating this like we're doing with any other sporting event, and say the least. I mean, this has the potential to lead up to the Super Bowl, the World Series, the NBA Finals, the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, depending on how you look at it, especially since it's a college environment, the Final Four, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it definitely is. And like you said, I think the most interesting thing about this thing is, since, probably in between rounds, we probably won't have the championship till the end of the week or so. I want to see whoever team makes it to the finals, who's going to rally the most support in between the days between the announcement of the last two teams and the championship round. Who's going to go on social media and try to rally the fans for one last stand? And I think whatever team, looking at these four teams, whichever team ends up representing in the finals, the last matchup, I don't think we'll be disappointed. I'm down for the fun. I'm down for an upset. Even if I'm wrong, I'm down for it, even though, it'll kind of tarnish my reputation a little bit there. But I want to see who's going to come out with the biggest fight, who's going to get the most fans to come and support. I think that's going to be the biggest thing. It's all about politics and popularity right now, Kenny. So the stat books, the playbooks are all out of the window at this point.
Yeah, whatever happens in the upcoming presidential election, it's not going to mean a thing, because this is the election. You're going to see it happen, ladies and gentlemen. There's going to be a lot of incredible blood, sweat, tears, ruckus. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be everything. So we cannot wait to have our Final Two here as well. And that is going to conclude our preview for the Final Four. Mark, any final thoughts for you?
Well, one thought that I have is, as always, stay safe out there. The guys everyone worldwide who's kind of dealing with the coronavirus pandemic, be safe out there. You're in our thoughts and in our prayers, of course. And go out there, all you ETBU fans, go out there and vote. I want to see some activity out there on Twitter. So that's it for me. Make sure you survive this sci-fi movie that we're in right now, so to speak.
Yeah, or Passover, depending on whatever you look at it as well.
Yeah,
but,
true.
Anyways, folks, Twitter account, of course, Go ETBU Tigers. You can find a couple of tweets that have a poll, depending on which team you want. It's softball against men's soccer. You just choose which one you want. I mean, don't have an accidental vote, to say the least. Unfortunately, you can only vote one time, which is kind of unfortunate, because I feel like they should do it 25 times, just like you do in like all-star balloting, to say the least, online. But so you have that, and then you just go vote for whichever team you think is going to win, and then you have 24 hours to do that. So we've already started, so there's about like 22 hours left to go in this, voting process. So you have 22 hours to vote, and then whichever team comes away with the most votes at the end will advance to the championship, and we will have the preview for what should be an epic, colossal, thrilling, or whatever word you want to have. So that's going to wrap things up here from us. For Mark T. Robinson in New Orleans, I'm Kenneth K. Cline in Houston, and we will see you guys next time on this ETBU Sportsnet.